Imagine for a moment that your mind is a garden, a quiet, personal space. What you choose to plant there and how you gently tend to it, that determines everything that will grow. It's a kind of quiet strength, isn't it? Something we often admire in others. But it's not magic. It's something very real, something we can all learn to cultivate. And it all begins right there, in the soil of our minds, with our beliefs. So, what are beliefs really? They're those deep, often unspoken ideas we hold about everything. They aren't just passing thoughts. A better way to think of them is like the soil in that garden, the foundational layer that nourishes everything else. A garden needs good soil to thrive, and a healthy mind needs empowering beliefs. So where does this soil even come from? Well, for most of us, it's formed in our earliest years. Think about it. The warmth of encouragement can plant seeds of self-worth. But on the other hand, constant criticism, well, that can sow seeds of doubt. These very first plantings create the mental landscape we end up navigating for the rest of our lives. So let's talk about the first powerful seed we can consciously choose to plant in our garden, and that seed is optimism. Now, what's really fascinating here is that psychologists look at optimism in two different ways. For some people, it might just be a natural part of their personality, but for so many others, it's actually a learned skill. It all comes down to how you explain things to yourself when they go wrong. So someone practicing this skill might think, okay, this is just temporary, it's this one situation, not my whole life. That small shift in how you see things, that's an incredibly powerful tool that anyone can learn. And the impact of this mindset is, well, it's profound. It goes way beyond just your mood. Research has actually shown that a consistently optimistic outlook is linked to a seriously lower risk of cardiovascular death. It just goes to show, when you tend to your mind, you really are tending to your body too. This leads us perfectly to our next crucial seed, because, it's one thing to expect good things to happen, but it's another thing entirely to believe you have the power to make them happen. And that belief, that's called self-efficacy. This idea was given to us by the brilliant psychologist Albert Bandura. He explained that self-efficacy isn't about the skills you actually have, it's about your belief that you can use those skills to get something done. So it's the difference between knowing the recipe for a cake and believing you can actually bake one that everyone will love. It's that quiet inner voice that says, I can do this. So how do we grow this feeling? Well, Bandura gave us a pretty clear roadmap. The most powerful way is through mastery, just succeeding at things, especially when they're a little tough. Next is seeing others like us succeed. It makes us think, hey, if they can do it, maybe I can too. Then there's social persuasion, that wonderful encouragement we get from people who believe in us. And finally, it's about how we read our own bodies, seeing those nervous butterflies not as a sign of fear, but as energy that's getting us ready. Okay, so we have our soil and we've planted these powerful seeds. But what helps them grow? Well, that would be the sunlight and the water. And in our garden, that is hope. Because in psychology, hope isn't just a passive wish. It's an active, powerful tool that helps us move forward. This whole idea really comes from another psychologist, Charles Snyder, and he completely reframed how we should think about hope. It's not about crossing your fingers and just wishing for a better future. No, it's an active mindset. It's having a goal, figuring out how to get there, and finding the motivation to keep going. Snyder actually broke it down into 3 simple parts. First, you need goals. You have to know where you're trying to go. Second, you need to see the pathways, the different routes you could take, especially if you hit a roadblock. And third, you need agency. And do you see this right here? This is that self-belief we were just talking about. It's that self-efficacy, that feeling that says, I have what it takes to walk this path. And just like optimism, this active kind of hope, it has a real protective effect on us. Studies have actually found that people who cultivate this mindset are 20 to 25% less likely to experience depression. It's like a powerful, gentle buffer against the challenges life throws our way. So, all of this brings us back to the most important question of all. How do we become the gardener? How can we actively, gently cultivate these seeds of optimism, self-efficacy, and hope in our own minds? If there's one thing to take away from all of this, let it be this. This is not about who you are, it's about what you do. These mindsets are not fixed traits you're either born with or you're not. They are mental skills. And just like any skill, they can be developed with gentle, consistent practice. So here are just a few tools for your toolkit. You can start by setting really small, manageable goals just to build that feeling of success. You can gently start to question some of those limiting beliefs you might have. Maybe reshape your inner voice with affirmations, or simply notice what's already good by practicing gratitude. And remember, gardens always grow better in good company, so surround yourself with people who lift you up. Every single one of these is a small, quiet act of tending to your inner world. This whole process, it doesn't need some huge, grand gesture. It just begins with a single, small choice. So as we close, I'd like to invite you to just take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what is one tiny seed of hope, one little seed of optimism or belief that you can plant in the garden of your mind today?